Good evening and welcome to the Standing Resolution, the show where we take the arguments you have at Thanksgiving dinner and give them the serious treatment they probably deserve. Tonight we are in genuinely sacred territory. If you have spent any time in New Mexico or honestly anywhere in the American Southwest, you know that the question of red chili versus green chili is not a casual conversation. It is an identity. It is a loyalty. It has ended friendships, divided families, and caused at least one very tense moment at every roadside diner between Albuquerque and the Texas border. The state of New Mexico, to its eternal credit, solved the whole thing legally by allowing you to answer Christmas when asked which you want, meaning both, and we respect that deeply, but it does not help us tonight. Tonight's resolution is this: red chili beats green chili. One of our debaters will argue that this is simply, obviously, and deliciously true. The other will argue that it is not, that green chili not only holds its own but comes out ahead. Now, I want to be transparent about something. Neither debater chose their position. Each was assigned their side, which means what you are.
Let me start with a definition, because I think it matters more than people realize. What are we actually asking when we ask which chili beats the other? We are asking which one is the more complete expression of what chili can be. Which one carries the full weight of the ingredient, the tradition, the experience? And when you frame it that way, the answer becomes surprisingly clear. Red chili is green chili, finished. That is not a dismissal. That is the whole argument. A red chili pod is a green chili pod that has been allowed to reach its final form. It stayed on the plant longer. It concentrated. It deepened. The sugars developed, the heat settled into something more complex. The flavor stopped being bright and became resonant. You are not choosing between two different things. You are choosing between a rough draft and the final manuscript. Now I want to be fair to complexity here. Green chili has a freshness, a vegetal brightness that is genuinely wonderful. Nobody is denying that, but brightness is one note. Red chili plays a chord. There is earth in there and smoke, and a kind of slow warmth that builds in your chest rather than just hitting your tongue. It rewards Pa.
Let me grant Holly something right away because I think it actually helps my case. Red chili is green chili finished, that's the phrase used, and I want to sit with that word finished, because finished has two meanings and only one of them is flattering. Green chili is alive, that is not a sentimental observation, it is a culinary fact. When you roast a green chili, you are working with something that still has moisture, still has volatile compounds, still has a brightness that can cut through fat and heat and everything else on the plate. It reacts, it surprises you. Red chili, by contrast, has already done its reacting. The process is complete, what you get is fixed. Now, I am not going to pretend that fixed is always bad. A finished thing has consistency, has depth, has that resonant quality Holly's described very well. But here is the honest question: when was the last time you described your favorite food as finished? We do not tend to love things because they have stopped becoming. We love them because they are still in motion. There is also a practical argument hiding inside the philosophical one. Green chili is harder to work with. It demands more of the cook, you-ha.
Both sides just made genuinely good cases, which means the rebuttals are going to be where this gets interesting, because Holly's has to answer the word finished, and Mordecai has to explain why difficulty alone makes something better. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, I'm Justice Vale, and you're watching The Standing Resolution. Tonight we're asking whether red chili beats green chili, and both sides just gave us something to chew on. Now it's time for the rebuttals, and I have a feeling the gloves are about to come off.
Mordecai made a genuinely clever move with that word, finished, and I want to honor it before I dismantle it. He is right that finished can mean over, done, spent. But that reading only works if you think the goal of a chili is to keep becoming something. And I would push back on that pretty hard. The goal of an ingredient is to be fully itself. A green chili that never ripens has not preserved its potential. It has just never arrived. Think about it this way. We do not say that a green banana beats a ripe one because it still has somewhere to go. Ripeness is not stasis. Ripeness is completion. And completion, when we are talking about flavor, is exactly what you want. Now, the difficulty argument. Mordecai says green chili demands more of the cook, and that difficulty signals something real is at stake. I actually agree with the instinct there. But difficulty and quality are not the same axis. Some things are hard because they are fragile. Red chili is not fragile. It is stable, concentrated, and extraordinarily forgiving across a dozen different preparations. That is not easiness, that is versatility. And versatility in a staple ingredient is a feature, not a consolation piece.
Holly's just invoked mole, and I want to stay there for a moment because mole is actually a more complicated example than it seems. Yes, mole uses dried red chili. It also uses chocolate and nuts and a dozen other things working together to create something that no single ingredient could claim credit for. The red chili in mole is not the hero. It is a member of an ensemble. Citing mole as proof of red chili's dominance is a little like pointing to an orchestra and saying the oboe wins. Now the banana argument, I appreciate it, but it proves less than Holly's thinks. We are not talking about the same chili at different stages of its own life. Green chili and red chili are used differently, prepared differently, paired differently. They have diverged into genuinely distinct culinary traditions, so the ripeness analogy breaks down right where it matters most. On versatility, I would actually argue that green chili's demanding nature is precisely what has made it so embedded in the cooking of the people who love it most. You do not develop technique around something that forgives everything. You develop technique around something that requires you to pay attention. That relations.
Hollies, you've built your case around completion, the idea that red chili is the finished, fully realized version of the ingredient. But New Mexico's own signature dish, the one that defines the cuisine to the outside world, is the green chili cheeseburger, not a red chili cheeseburger. If red chili is truly the more complete expression, why did the culture that knows these chilies best reach for the green one when it wanted to put something on a postcard?
That is a great question, and I want to answer it honestly rather than dodge it. The green chili cheeseburger is iconic. It is delicious. And it is, when you think about it, a dish built around accessibility. It is the thing you hand to someone who has never been to New Mexico before, because green chili is bright and immediate and it lands fast. It is a perfect introduction. But introductions are not the whole relationship. Ask any serious New Mexican cook what they reach for when they are making the dish they are most proud of. The red chili enchiladas, the Paxelle, the slow-cooked stew that took all day, and you will hear the same answer. Red chili is what you cook when the stakes are high and the time is right. The postcard sells the first visit. Red chili is why people move there.
Mordecai, you've argued that green chili's difficulty, the roasting, the peeling, the timing, is actually a mark of its superiority, that earning it makes it better. But difficulty is a property of the process, not the food. By that logic, a dish that takes longer to make is always more valuable than one that doesn't. So where exactly does that argument stop, and why should we accept it here?
That is a fair challenge, and I will not pretend it has no teeth. You are right that difficulty alone proves nothing. A dish that requires 3 days of labor is not automatically better than one that takes 20 minutes. The argument I am making is more specific than that. It is not that hard equals good. It is that when difficulty is inseparable from the ingredient's nature, when you cannot get what green chili offers without going through the process it demands, that tells you something about the depth of what is actually there. Red chili's stability is real, but it is partly the stability of something that has already given up its most volatile qualities. Green chili holds those qualities inside a form that requires care to unlock. That is not arbitrary difficulty. That is the food protecting something worth protecting. The work is not the point. What the work reveals is the point.
Up next is the moment that separates this show from every other argument you have ever had about food, the Steelman round, where Hollies has to make the strongest possible case for green chili and Mordecai has to do the same for red. It is harder than it sounds, and it is always where the real thinking shows up. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Standing Resolution. I'm Justice Vale, and we are deep in the red versus green debate. Now comes the round I find most revealing, the Steelman. Each debater has to make the strongest honest case for the side they're arguing against. Let's see how well they really know their opponent.
Here is the strongest case for green chili, and I want to give it everything it deserves. There's a kind of flavor that only exists in the present tense. When you pull a roasted green chili off the comal, when you peel back that charred skin and the steam rises, and you get that smell, that specific combination of sweet and heat and something almost floral underneath. You are experiencing something that cannot be preserved, cannot be approximated, and cannot be replicated by any amount of drying or grinding or reconstituting. It is a live transmission. And the argument for green chili, at its most powerful, is that food which only exists fully in the moment of its making is not lesser for its brevity. It is more honest. It asks you to be present. It refuses to be timeless because it was never trying to be timeless. It was trying to be now. That is a genuinely beautiful argument. I mean that. There is real philosophy in it. And here is why I still land where I land. The foods that shape cultures across generations are not the ones that demand you catch them at the right moment. They are the ones that travel. They are the ones that feed people in January when the harvest is 6 m.
Here is the strongest case for red chili, and I want to give it the weight it actually deserves. There is a kind of knowledge that only comes from time. When a chili stays on the plant until it reddens, when it is dried and the water leaves and everything that remains is the concentrated essence of what the plant was trying to say all along, you are not losing something. You are arriving somewhere. The flavor that emerges is not a diminished version of green chili. It is a different order of thing entirely. It has complexity that could not have existed without patience. It has depth that freshness, by definition, cannot reach. And the cuisines built around it, the long-simmered sauces, the slow braises, the dishes that require hours and reward you with something that tastes like it has always existed, those are not accidents. They are the natural expression of an ingredient that rewards commitment. That is a serious argument. It is not just about taste. It is about what food can mean when it carries time inside it. And yet, I keep coming back to the same place. Red chili rewards commitment because it has already made its commitments. The decisions are behind it. Green chili is.
Both debaters just made the strongest possible case for the side they're arguing against, which means they know exactly where the other one is vulnerable. Closing arguments are next, and that is where this thing gets settled. Final words, no more back and forth, just the best each side has left. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, I'm Justice Vale, and this is the standing resolution. We've heard the Steelmans, we've heard the cross-examination, and now both sides get one last shot to make it stick. Closing arguments are next, and after tonight, you may never answer Christmas quite the same way again.
Here is what this debate has really been about. It has not been about which chili tastes better on a given Tuesday. It has been about what we mean when we say something wins. And I want to be precise about that, because precision is where I live. Mordecai made a beautiful argument for the present tense. Green chili is alive, responsive, here with you right now. I genuinely respect that. But the present tense is not the only measure of value, and in food, it is not even the most important one. The most important measure is what an ingredient makes possible across time, across people, across generations who never met each other but sat down to the same bowl. Red chili does that. It has always done that. It carries a culture's flavor identity across centuries without losing what it is. That is not a small thing. That is the whole thing. Green chili is the harvest. Red chili is what the harvest becomes when a people decide it matters enough to preserve. And here is what I keep returning to. Every civilization that has ever built something lasting has understood that some things are worth the patience they demand. Red chili is the proof of that principle, ground fine and slow cook.
Holly's just said legacy is the win, and I want to honor that because it is genuinely true that red chili carries something across centuries that green chili cannot. I have never denied that. But here is what I keep coming back to. Legacy is how we remember a thing. It is not the thing itself. The meal you are actually eating, the one in front of you right now, does not care about centuries. It cares about whether the ingredient in it is still alive, still responding, still capable of doing something unexpected to the person eating it. Green chili does that every time. Holly said green chili is the harvest and red chili is what the harvest becomes, but I want to suggest a different reading. Green chili is what the harvest was trying to be before we decided we needed it to last forever. It is the plant's actual intention, caught at the moment it had the most to say. Red chili is a remarkable act of preservation, but preservation is what you do when the real thing is out of reach. Green chili is not the rough draft. It is not the introduction. It is not the postcard. It is the meal itself demanding your attention, refusing to wait, insisting that right now is the only moment.
And that is where we leave it. Hollis Vega argued that red chili is the finished form of something that took centuries to perfect, that legacy, depth, and endurance are not consolation prizes, but the whole point. Mordecai Quill answered that presence is not a lesser virtue, that green chili is the plant's actual intention caught at its most alive, and that preservation is what you reach for when the real thing isn't available. Both of them, I would note, made the other side sound almost convincing, which is either a sign of intellectual honesty or a very good night for chili in general. Who won, that is entirely up to you, and I mean that literally. The vote is yours. If you want to weigh in on tonight's resolution, or, and this is the part I enjoy, if you want to tell us what we should be arguing about next, come find us at Paxelle.tv. Every resolution on this show starts as a suggestion from someone who had a strong opinion and nowhere to put it. We are very much in the business of providing that somewhere. One thing worth knowing before you go, the voices you heard tonight are AI personas, and the positions they argued were assigned to them, not chosen. What you got.